Well, hi there, and welcome to the Sovereign CEO podcast. I am Caleb Jones, and this is Sovereign CEO. And just in case you were not aware, I have another podcast called the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast, where we discuss lifestyle design for men, dating and relationships for men, anti-aging, much other cool shit. And if you're interested in that, you should go to alphamale20.com and click podcasts, and you can subscribe over there to all the usual podcast platforms. There's no reason you shouldn't get all my content, because I do this podcast once a week, and I do the Alpha Male 2.0 podcast once a week. So there you go. Many years ago, when I was a young man in my 20s, back in the, early 1990s. This is before I went full-time with my first company. I went full-time with my first business in 1996. And the last job that I had, last company that I worked for as an employee back in 1995 was Nike. I actually worked at the Nike headquarters in Beaverton, Oregon, as a little IT nerd. And back then, this was pre-internet. The internet was around, but no one used it. And this was even, in many cases, pre-CDs. I mean, we used CDs, but cassette tapes were still the main thing people used. And I would listen to business audio cassettes. I did that for years and years throughout my 20s, starting in my early 20s. And I attribute a lot of my success as a younger man back then to a lot of those audio cassettes. People like Brian Tracy and Earl Nightingale and guys like that. And one of the reasons I ended up making a six-figure income in 1990s dollars by the time I was 27 with no college degree is because of those cassette tapes. I knew that since I didn't go to college, I needed to educate myself. And so I was a monster with these cassette tapes. Yes, Tony Robbins too, all the usual stuff. All the usual big names you could think of back in the 90s I listened to. And there was a particular audio program, cassette program on 6 cassettes by a guy named Robert Allen. And Robert Allen was mostly back then a real estate guy, kind of a silly, goofy guy. And made a lot of money in real estate, then made a lot of money in real estate books and selling how to get rich in real estate type things. And he had an audio cassette business program that wasn't about real estate. It was called Multiple Streams of Income. And I had already read his book, which was called Nothing Down, or Nothing Down for the 90s. It was a real estate book. So I was familiar with who he was. And I saw that in the business audio catalog one day when I was about 22, 23 years old. And I said, well, that's interesting. I never heard that concept before. Multiple streams of income. Multiple income streams? You mean you could have other income streams besides just having a job? Really? Or a business? Because I was still planning on starting my own business back then. But how can you can have multiple businesses? I mean, you can have multiple streams of income from one business? I didn't understand. So I was curious, so I ordered it and I listened to it and I loved it. Now it's quite dated now. I don't recommend you listen to it now. It's pretty dated. But there's a lot of good concepts in there. And basically what he talks about is the entire concept of having multiple streams of income. And he talked about his story where he used to own a company of something like 150 employees. And one day, out on the loading dock or something, one of the dock workers pinched a woman's ass who also worked for the company. And the woman, of course, this was the 90s. This was the beginning of America's shift to the political left, the cultural left-wing shift that just began in about the mid-90s. This is right about then. I'm not saying that's appropriate behavior, of course not. But what happened was this woman, of course, sued the guy and then sued the company, and then sued Robert Allen, the owner of the business. And he's like, what did I have to do with? I had nothing to do with this. I don't condone this. The guy was fired and, it took care of it. But apparently he spent a lot of time in court fighting this off, spent millions of dollars in legal fees. And he was joking about how he got the thrill, but I got the bill. And so when he was all done, he sat down at his desk one day and he's like, you know what? I am dealing with 150 employees, I'm dealing with 150 time bombs. Any one of these assholes, he didn't say assholes, I'm saying assholes. Any one of these individuals, any one of these people could just snap and sue me and cause all kinds of chaos that isn't my fault, that I had nothing to do with. So he made the decision, and I relate to this decision because I copied this decision a few years later. A lot of this is the genesis for the Alpha 2.0 business model. That's why I'm talking about the story. He made the decision to shut down the business and lay everybody off. And he tried to be a nice guy about it and give them plenty of time and severance pay and gave them all recommendations and all that crap. And he shut down his business and he operated himself in an office by himself. And he was actually talking about in the audio program during that recording, he was saying, I'm getting to the point now where I have to hire a secretary or like an admin assistant. He goes, and it terrifies me. I don't want any employees. I'm terrified to hire this one person. He said, however, here's the deal. He rattled off the names of some big corporations. And he goes, I make more money and work less hours than the CEOs of any of those corporations because I have no employees. Interesting. And instead of focusing on one business, he focused on multiple streams. He said, I'm no longer going to rely on one income stream. I'm going to rely on many as I can get. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 different things. Because if I have one income stream, like 99% of humanity, and anything happens at one stream, right? My business goes out of business, or I get sued, or my product becomes obsolete, or if I have a job and I'm fired or laid off, well, then I'm in big trouble. I don't want to be in big trouble. I want to be cool no matter what happens. And he goes on to describe in the audio program all the different income streams that he developed for himself. Information products, consulting, coaching. He did a lot of licensing stuff back then, which I haven't done a lot of, a little bit, not much. I should probably do more. And he just went through different scenarios and different ways you can create multiple income streams. And this was one of those audio programs that was a real turning point for me. I went, my God, this is such a great concept. This is amazing. I need to do this. I also remembered how he made more money and worked less hours when he had 0 employees than when he had 150 employees. I remembered that. And if you know my story, if you read my History of the Unchained Man, my primary book at alphamalebook.com, I went through that same sort of evolution. I started a traditional business, location-dependent business, as an IT nerd, IT consultant. At one point, I got to 4 employees in addition to myself, plus some contractors and things like that. Blew my brains out. I didn't take any of his advice. 100% of my income was computer consulting. I did nothing else until many years later, I actually self-published an ebook on how to make 6 figures as a computer consultant, because that's what I was doing at the time, even though I was young. And eventually what I did is I did the same thing he did. I was a slow learner, I guess. I was a kid. I was in my 20s. As I shut down my business, laid off all my employees, made sure they all had jobs, worked out of my home, and he was right. I experienced the same thing. My income went up and my work hours went down. And I focused at that point on creating multiple streams of income. And my goal was to have these multiple income streams come from completely different sources. So a core aspect of the Alpha 2.0 business model that I teach is that you don't just start one business. You want to start over time, eventually, not tomorrow, not next year, do one of these at a time, 2 to 4 small businesses that are in completely different industries, completely different markets, completely different niches, selling things that have nothing to do with each other. So historically, my example has been over the last few years, although this has changed and morphed over the past 20 years. Historically, I've had 3 companies: business consultant, selling consulting services to a few different industries; online sales, which would be Alpha Male 2.0 and later Sovereign CEO. So now I have 2 online companies. I have Alpha Male 2.0 and Sovereign CEO. And then I had a company called CCM where we sold marketing services to IT companies. I closed that company down when cerveza sickness hit. And I replaced that with another company in the healthcare industry that I really don't want to talk about right now. So I followed my own advice. And so I always had at least 2, sometimes 3 companies. And this is true to this day, where I'm generating income every month from companies that have nothing to do with each other. Okay. On top of that, I have structured it where I currently have at the moment approximately 17 different income streams. I'm selling 17 different things to 3 or 4 different marketplaces, much of which have nothing to do with each other. Everywhere from I sell coaching, I sell ebooks, which is different than coaching. It's a different income stream. I sell courses, I sell consulting services, I sell marketing services. I sell a lot of different things that have nothing to do with each other. I sell workshops, all these different income streams, many of which are related, but some of which have nothing to do with each other. And so now, with all these different companies and all these different income streams, I am one of the most financially secure people on the planet who isn't super wealthy. I mean, I do okay financially, but I'm not super wealthy. But yet, I'm very secure. If you have an entire business that goes out of business, I can still function because I have income from other companies. If you have 3 or 4 income streams that dry up or become illegal or become unfeasible or unworkable, like all these guys on YouTube who get a YouTube income. I just saw this the other day. There's a comedian on YouTube named Kyle Dunnigan. A lot of you probably know who he is. Hilariously funny. And the guy's got, 200, 300,000 YouTube followers. He gets thousands and thousands of views on every YouTube video he does. And he recently showed his income. It was like $120 from YouTube, from hundreds of thousands of followers. And he was making a joke. He goes, you know what word I'm thinking of? Unsustainable. Right. Now, the reason he's worried is because that's his only income stream. He also is hired to do real life stand-up, so that would be a second stream for him. So he has 2 income streams. 2's not enough, because in this world, the collapsing Western world, the dark age which we have entered, relying on one income stream today is insanity. You could do this prior to about the mid-90s. Okay? Prior to the mid-90s, you could devote your entire life and your entire being and your entire work to one income stream, and you'd be okay, most likely. You'd be fine back in the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. That was the era in which we lived. Starting in the early to mid-90s, that vanished forever, and now you need multiple streams of income, unfortunately, if you want to be totally secure. Now, again, an exception would be if you're extraordinarily wealthy. If you're a billionaire, none of this applies to you. Although, if you're a billionaire, I would imagine you probably have multiple streams of income. In many cases, not in all cases, but in many. So if you're worth kabillions of dollars, you can ignore all my advice and do whatever you want. But if you're a normal human being, you need multiple streams of income. Now, does that mean you set up all of your multiple streams all at the same time? No. I get a lot of questions about this. Caleb, I want to start 2 businesses at the same time. I want to start 3 businesses at the same time. Don't do that. That won't work. My son has a quote that he probably learned somewhere else. If you chase 2 rabbits, you won't get either one. Chase 1 rabbit at a time. Build up 1 income stream, get it working, get it functional to a degree that you like it. It doesn't have to be $10,000 a month. It might be $500 a month. Doesn't matter. Okay, whatever you want it to be. Put that on maintenance mode, keep that spinning, then set up the next one. Then set up the next one. And you outsource as you go. You hire staff, not employees. I teach a no employee model. You hire outsourcing staff, subcontractors, virtual assistants, volunteers, interns, what have you, to maintain the existing income streams while you create new streams. That is my role as CEO of my companies. My role as CEO of my business, I have several roles, but one of my primary roles is to create new income streams while not denigrating or reducing or damaging any of the existing income streams, unless I choose to. There are times I'll look at an income stream and say, this isn't working, and I'll kill it myself, but that's my decision. But I promise you, at no point have I ever started multiple companies all at once or multiple income streams all at once. I've always done one at a time. One at a time, get it rolling, do the next one. Get it rolling, do the next one, outsource it, do the next one. Get it rolling, outsource it, do the next one. I've done that my whole life or most of my adult life, and it's worked very, very well for me. Now, often when I say that, don't start 2 businesses at once, I will get nitpickers in the comments who say, well, what about Elon Musk? Several things. Number 1, Elon Musk did not start these businesses all at the exact same time, if you study his history. Number 2, Elon Musk is a superhuman. I didn't say he was an alpha male, he's a big beta. But you can have beta male superhumans. Superhumans are real, they exist. Steve Jobs was a superhuman. Arnold Schwarzenegger is a superhuman. Elon Musk is a superhuman, and as I've said many times on my prior content, you are probably not a superhuman. I'm certainly not. I am not a superhuman. Elon Musk is, you're not. You're not Elon Musk. I'm sorry to break it to you, but I have a feeling you don't have the wherewithal or the desire or the energy to go work for 14, 15 hours a day and sleep on your factory floor. You're probably not going to do that, so don't compare yourself to superhumans when you are not one. I don't do this. I don't compare myself to superhumans. I compare myself to successful people who are not superhumans. Those are my mentors. I love those guys. And so knowing that you're not a superhuman, knowing that I'm not a superhuman, you have to behave in a normal manner, which means 1 income stream at a time, 1 business at a time. Does it take longer? Of course it takes longer. That's where patience comes in. And if you hustle and you work hard and you're focused and you're motivated, you can set up income streams pretty quickly. As a matter of fact, the beauty of the multiple income stream model and the multiple business model is that the first business you start, I've said this many times, the first business you start is the hardest one. By far. That's the hardest one. It takes the most amount of time, the most pain in the ass. It's also very exciting, but it's a pain in the ass. You'll do things wrong. You'll blow money. You'll waste money on various things. It'll piss you off. But here's the beauty of it. Once that business is up and running and making real money, when you start that second business, it's easy. You're like, this is so easy. Why didn't I do this a long time ago? I should start 10 of these things. Because starting the second business, third business, fourth business is really easy. By the way, there are statistics. I can't quote sources, but you can Google them around if you want. There are statistics that show that everyone talks about the failure rate of new companies, right? So the average new business, 82% go out of business within the first 4 years or something like that. However, there's another statistic that people aren't aware of, where when an entrepreneur who has already set up a business starts a second company, the success rates are reversed. In other words, it's an 82% chance the business will work really well when it's the second business started by a business owner who already started his first business. And I can completely relate to that. I have never started a second or third company that didn't make money, ever. I mean, it's never happened to me. And often I was shocked Man, this is definitely true. I have been shocked at how fast the money comes in when you set up that second business. Because once you have that first business set up, several advantages you have. Number one, obviously, you know what you're doing. You know how it worked. You know how to market. You know how to manage. You understand margin. You understand all these things. So the skill sets are already in place. You may not be perfect. You certainly have to grow and improve over time, but you have to understand the basics enough to make money. But number two, you have the infrastructure that's already set up. You already have the LLC. You already have the banking relationships. You already have the checking accounts. You already have the websites that can process orders. You already have a system where you can bring up new websites very quickly or bring up new business models very quickly, or you have all the infrastructure in place. So the second business is really a matter of, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but not quite. It's a matter of just pressing a few buttons. It really is. It's a matter of just setting up a few easy systems, most of which have already been set up, and implementing those systems. So when I say things like you own 3 companies or 4 businesses, or you have 17 income streams, it's not like, oh my God, 17 income streams. It's going to take me 47 years to set up 17 income. No, it won't. It'll take you a while to set up the first 2 or 3 or 4. Once you have the first 2 or 3 or 4, you can add the next 5 like that. It's so simple and so easy. It's a diminishing rate of work as you continue on with these income streams and these multiple businesses. So it's not nearly as difficult or as time-consuming as it sounds when I throw out these big numbers. If even I say 2 companies, own 2 businesses, oh my God, that sounds like a nightmare. No, it's not. Especially if you follow the Alpha 2.0 business model, where you have near zero infrastructure, no employees, location dependent. You run all of your companies from your laptop. My laptop is right over there. I run all of my corporations, all of my corporation structures around the world, all of my investments, everything from that one laptop right there. That's my entire infrastructure. I have no inventory, I have no offices, I have no computer equipment, I have no copy machines, I have nothing. I have one little baby laptop, and that's it. Now, that doesn't look very cool compared to a guy who has a traditional business with a big building with his name on it. I understand that, but I'm Malcolm Independent, I don't care. I want the money and the freedom. I don't give a shit about the recognition. I never have. So if you are oriented to having a job for your income, which is insanity these days, or starting your own business, and that business becomes your income, you need to start reorienting your brain. You want multiple streams of income from multiple businesses, not jobs, that you own. And the Alpha 2.0 model business model means 2 to 4 businesses. So 2 is fine. You can have 2. That's okay. A primary one and a secondary one. Okay, that both make money, but each business has multiple streams spinning off it. So if you've got, at a minimum, let's talk about minimums here. If you've got 2 Alpha 2.0 businesses, they're location dependent, no employees. You can travel wherever you want because they're location dependent. And each business has, let's say, 4 income streams each. All right? So business 1 has 4, business 2 has 4 for a total of 8 income streams. 2 businesses that have nothing to do with each other, that are in completely different markets, completely different niches, that have literally nothing to do with each other, you're good to go. Congratulations, you are the top upper fraction of 1% in terms of long-term financial stability as a human being in this era, because you have all these options. And let me rewind really quick on 2 businesses that have nothing to do with each other. I will talk to people, here's my favorite example. I will talk to people in the real estate industry, and they will say, okay, so I'm a real estate agent, so that'll be my first business. Then I want to set up an escrow company, that'll be my second business. Then I want to train real estate agents, that'll be my third business. No. What I would do is not do the escrow company at all. I would do the training of the real estate agents and put that as an income stream under your real estate business. And I would start a second business that has literally nothing to do with real estate. Because you have multiple companies that are all in the same sector, you're not diversified. You're in trouble, you're exposed. And so that's why you want to have 2 companies or more, 2 to 4, you don't need more than 4, that have nothing to do with each other. Make sense? That's why that happens. You're diversifying your income. As I've talked about, everyone has a spare tire in their car. No one has a spare income. I would argue that a spare income is a lot more important than a fucking spare tire. We have our priorities all out of whack these days. Spare income, multiple streams of income, if you could do it. And you can, it's not that hard. If this topic is of interest to you, if you want me to discuss this more and go into more detail about multiple streams, multiple business models, things like that, let me know and I will certainly address that in an upcoming podcast. I will see you next week. Have fun. Bye.